Okay, everyone, listen in. Firstly, congratulations. I think you've done a really good job here. This is the first week, obviously, and it's quite prestigious. You've got a lot of work out here, and I realise how difficult it is and how difficult it's going to be in the coming weeks, but we're only doing it in 2 days. So from everyone's point of view, well done for actually getting so much content out there. What we need to do now is just aim to get more people in it. There are various aspects that are missing here, as you would expect, that need to be included in the coming weeks. But we'll go through it bit by bit now. These titles look much better, much more professional. So whoever's changed them, well done.
Hello and welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm Jennifer Correa Marchbank.
Jennifer, really well done this week. It's very difficult coming in, expected to read, and you've done a proper job. Well done. It's all very clear. You will get more relaxed as the weeks go on, but it's a really bright, positive start.
Stories today. In the battle to fight obesity, Hampshire offers free sessions for Weight Watchers. Smooth sailing for the South's new all-electric boat.
I think part of this problem is, the first headline's nice, by the way. The second one, you're not actually sailing. I don't want to be nitpicky here, but you're not quite sailing. So the joke doesn't quite work. And I have to say this guy is quite difficult to understand in just a little section of what he's been saying. So this makes it a little bit more difficult.
Sustainability is our biggest challenge that we have at the moment. Many people may not realise, but I think it is our biggest challenge.
And what's brewing in Winchester's revamped community centre?
That's perfect. That's exactly how it should be. Quick line, a joke, or a pun, should we say, but it's matching the pictures, adding to it, and a good start.
The battle to beat the bulge is being tackled with a dramatic...
It's unfortunate. It did this before, and I don't want it to stop there, because if it does, I'm going to have to do it all over again. I might just move it on a bit.
Overweight
There we
people
go.
to weight loss sessions. Anyone with a BMI of over 30 will be able to refer themselves to a Weight Watchers session for free. But the scheme has been heavily criticised by some of those who have already paid out. Georgie Wingrove expands.
Yeah, I had a little laugh here that Georgie Wingrove expands. I have this picture of Georgie just getting bigger and bigger until she bursts. Whether it was meant to be a little joke or not, maybe explains. I think expands is being a bit unfair to Georgie. Also in that link, the BMI line. Look, we know it's a body mass index, but not everybody will, or what it actually means. So sometimes in your links, and this is a theme as well, that you don't quite get to grips with explaining what the story is about, and you presume a little bit too much knowledge. And that's what we can't do, because a link going into a package should explain something, should set it up, should tease it, but shouldn't leave the viewer in any position where they don't understand what is going on.
In recent years, obesity has become a huge issue all over the UK, with 65% of people in Hampshire being overweight. Weight Watchers have teamed up with Hampshire County Council to provide free weight loss classes for overweight people across the county.
And just a general thing here, you've seen what Georgie's done. You have some overweight people walking around in Winchester. We're not identifying anyone. We're not calling anyone fat. We're not calling anyone obese because we can't identify who they are. So this is the way to shoot various things. Sometimes we have to shoot children. So by chopping off people's heads, basically, with the camera work, we don't identify who these people are.
The council is set to spend £2 million on this new programme.
The funding is great, and it looks as though...
What I felt, though, Georgie, about the top of this package, not only is this lady in profile, and I'm not quite sure why you shot it in complete profile like this, but also your intro has just basically repeated what was said in the link. There is nothing new now. Now, what you will see a little bit later on is there is a package where there's something added in that first line. It's just a slight interpretation. What you've got here is just a repeat of what has been said before.
Because we're only paid on results, but we're likely to put through between 8 and 10,000 residents a year over the 3 years. Our focus is going to be reaching out to those harder to reach groups and the more deprived areas where we know obesity is linked with social deprivation.
And well done for getting those pictures. It adds so much to it just by giving it extra flavour and being inside a Weight Watchers group.
The cost of managing Hampshire's obesity-related diseases is currently over 330 million. With these rates set to rise in the future, it's hoped that this huge amount of funding will save the NHS time and money.
Winchester.
Right, well, Georgie, I think you just need more in it. Like everything, you need somebody at Weight Watchers. We need to get to a Weight Watchers group. We need some more statistics. We need more interviews with, dare I say it, fatter, larger people who need to lose weight. So it just needs more human interest to it, because at the moment, you look back at that package and it's just a few people walking down the street. You've got a few shots from Weight Watchers and one interview. So as you can see, what about the council? Why are they targeting this? What's the reason they are targeting these people? Clearly because it costs them money, whether it's in the NHS or through the health service, in GP surgeries, etc., etc. All sorts of reasons why it's costing them money. So it just needs more to it.
Known as one of the safest places in the UK. Petty crimes don't happen here very often, thankfully. But just down the road in Southampton, multiple break-ins in the city centre have become a big concern for business owners. So is there a danger we could be next in line? Our crime reporter, Teo Yi Shen, has the details.
I like the way you've tried to link this into Winchester. I mean, ultimately, when I've seen the story, it comes out as there is no story in Winchester. But I like the fact that you've tried to bring this into Winchester when it's very much a Southampton story. And that's a nice start. There's just a little bit of Nat Sot. Everybody should understand this. Nat Sot is natural sound on tape. So what you get is noise of wherever you are. We could have actually waited for a little bit longer and got a little bit more of the steam coming out, that sort of noise. But it just gives character to a piece. It just lets you know and lets you get inside the piece and feel it and be where the shots are. So use that sound, and using that sound is very, very important.
By thieves 10 times over the last 3 years, and now they've reached the boiling point.
And that's a really good piece of writing, because it's not this. There's a little bit of drama in there. There's good, strong writing. You're clearly trying to connect with your pictures, and you've explained what's going on, and you've not repeated what has happened, what has been said in the link. So it's a really bright, crafted start.
Matrix Tea and Coffee House, located in the heart of Southampton, are calling upon a city centre improvement scheme to ensure these break-ins are stopped. Southampton Business Improvement District, or BID, allow local businesses to pool their resources together in order to invest into the local area.
This is your one boring shot in this piece, because everything else is full of colour, full of people, vibrant, and here you've just got a pretty dull pan from one side of the bar to the other with nobody in it, nobody doing anything. I'd leave it out, find something else.
One of the local businesses in the community is Matrix Tea and Coffee House. Within the past years, they've been targeted multiple times. The latest break-in was 2 weeks ago, where one of their windows was smashed through. And 3 months before that, the same incident occurred. We sat down with Tom Godwin, one of the managers of Matrix.
So, a good up to that point and to that last sentence, we sat down. You don't need that. You could have stopped where you said it happened again. And then he picks up the story. You don't need to say we sat down with. It's very much a radio intro. Of course, when you're doing radio, you don't have vision. You don't have the ability to be able to Aston people, i.e. to use a super so you can see what the guy's name is. And you have to introduce people. In television, we have the luxury, we don't have to do that. So this last sentence, before you see your interviewee, is redundant. There's another incidence of this later in the bulletin, and I'll pick it out as well.
The amount of overees seems to be falling.
You see, we have Tom Goodwin here, all right, the marketing manager, and he goes straight into it, and therefore that piece was redundant. Also, just the framing, he's too central here. Look, there's equal distance there as there is there, but actually his face should be here. The rule of thirds is very important, and for those of you who don't know, look up the rule of thirds. I'm sure you've been told it or will be taught it, but that is where you need to position his head, because if you have an imaginary line down there, that's 1/3 of the picture, that's another third of the picture. That's where we want the head to be, with all this space here for him to look into.
It seems like they're doing a good job. They do seem to be a lot more vigilant at the moment, so we have seen increased patrols, not just since this one, but before we had a slight increase. But now I think there's more of an increase. I think they're looking to do other things. They are really trying to work, and they are working on us quite well.
Suffering from property damage, Matrix Tea and Coffee House is pulling everything together to prevent the break-ins by having more CCTV and reinforced doors.
At that stage, I think you've got to have a view of where the CCTV cameras are and the reinforced doors. Very simple.
Put a huge amount of money into making sure that we are basically becoming burglar-proof. And yeah, we just need to keep. I mean, we're pretty much there with what we can do.
We spoke to Councillor Steve Miller whether the situation is the same at Winchester.
See, all you need to say in a line like that is, but is the situation the same in Winchester? We spoke to Councillor Steve Miller. All that is redundant and is included in what we see when we see an Aston.
Well, as we're aware, and it's been for
Yeah.
See, there you are. That says it all.
we don't have that problem in Windsor at the moment, but obviously the situations can always change, but I think the police are fairly relaxed about the situation in Winchester.
And that basically means, well, there's no story here, so even though you have tried to drag it into Winchester, it's really not a story.
While things are looking safe in Winchester, looks like Matrix Tea and Coffee House, it's back to the grind. This is Theo Yishen, Winchester News Online.
And I think, I like what you've tried there. I don't think that end line works, but I really appreciate the way you're trying to think of something that goes with the pictures. And your voice is good here, and you have got tight writing. I think it's a little bit long, this piece, and it actually isn't a massive story, but I like what you've tried to do, and as an exercise, you've used lots of pictures, there are sequences here, and you've tried to expand it to more than just there's a bloke who's thrown a brick through the window once or twice. So well done for trying to make it into a decent story.
The landmark Paris climate deal was agreed by the European Union last week, paving the way for a global agreement over greenhouse gases and rising temperatures. Meanwhile, 400 miles away from Strasbourg, we've seen the launch of the South's first Sustainability Week. Hannah Quinn took to the water to see one of the ways climate change could be tackled closer to home.
See, that's really good. Again, you've tried to bring it in. I know we're desperate for stories this week, but it's just quite sensible and grown up, trying to attach it to an international story.
The sight of crashing waves is a normal part of boat rides. What is not normal, however, is how loud they are. Yet it's not the waves that are different here.
I think, Hannah, you can play more on the sound. That natsot I was talking about, I think you can have more of it. And then we need to have the piece of this battery motor.
It's the boat. Powered by electricity, it cuts smoothly and silently across the River Itchen, with no diesel outboard drowning out the sound of the waves.
See that bit? Then we can hear it, but we need more of that sound. A bit of a gap in your voiceover, I think.
The weekend, the public were invited to see and experience the technology in boat trips that come as part of Southampton's Sustainability Week. The electric boat is designed by Dr. Dennis Durfeld, who sees this technology as important amid a wider need to be more sustainable.
Yeah, I think sustainability is our biggest challenge.
See, that's fine as a link into him, because you've got a picture of him and you're trying to explain what he's done and how he's done it and what it means to him. So that sort of a setup is okay. We've seen him and you've introduced him in a perfect way. Whereas previously there were things that didn't need to be said, that Tjode said that just weren't necessary.
We have at the moment, many people may not realize, but I think it is our biggest challenge. Something like Sustainability Week, where one whole week is focused around the topic of sustainability from many different angles. I think it was a very good idea to organise.
Alongside the boat trips come events like local bike rides and educational talks, which is hoped will bring people together and help them to become more sustainable.
The number of people who are interested in sustainability type things in the city is increasing, and that's good. So I'm hoping on one hand that it will reach...
It's just a little bit dark and dull, this. I think your exposure's slightly wrong because of clearly this bright patch here has made everything else look very, very dark.
...to people who maybe don't normally attend sustainability events, but also to educate people who are already interested in it. There are still things that they don't know, so sometimes people are misinformed and they maybe think recycling is enough, when actually it's nowhere near enough.
As the autumn leaves fall at the end of another summer, there are hopes that this is just the beginning for a campaign that could breathe new life into the city. Hannah Quinn, Winchester News Online, Southampton.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really quite a sensible package. They're using different aspects of it. I wonder how much what you've done really reflects what you said in your piece to camera, though, and how it will affect the city with this boat. And again, I think, what any commercial use that it might be used for within the city, or how will it be expanded? I think there are all sorts of different aspects that you need to show. Yes, you've shown someone on a bike, but I think, when you get buses churning out dirty carbon monoxide or whatever it might be, just all this filth coming out of the backs of cars, heavy transport. I think you've just got to think of those extra things that will make it stand out and fill out your piece.
As the debate over Brexit continues, there are concerns about the effect on the British economy. Our business correspondent Alice Rose has been investigating.
That's a bit of a catch-all link. It's not very specific and it's a bit vague, and it sort of smacks to me of, right, we've got this, but I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with it.
Economists
Nice start though, like that.
suggested that Brexit has caused the value of the pound to drop to the lowest it's been in 31 years. This will mean the money in your pocket is now worth less compared to other currencies than it was a few months ago. In the last 12 months, with the referendum and Theresa May confirming the start date of Article 50 for March 2017.
Again, Article 50. I know what it is, you know what it is, I hope, but does your public know what Article 50 is? You have to explain that this is the trigger mechanism for our exit from the EU. So it needs to be explained. Don't presume our viewers know anything.
The pound value has plummeted. In October 2015, £1 was equivalent to $1.55. From the start of this month, a pound is worth only $1.27, a drop of 13%.
Well done on your graphics, that's really well explained.
Always with these things, there are winners and there are losers. Some exporters are doing very well with the decrease in the value of the pound. Some exporters are finding it hard because the product that they make, they have to import things for in order to make that product. And the price of that import has gone up. Ultimately, what we're focusing on is the opportunities. So the opportunity to export to markets further away, those sort of things, and the chance for British companies to do better.
It is uncertain exactly how the fall in the pound value will affect individual businesses and what the knock-on effect will be, both locally and nationally. Businesses now have an anxious wait to see what trade deals will be put in place before the trigger of Article 50 in March next year. Alice Rose, Winchester News Online.
Alice, you've got a really good voice and you've explained quite a lot of this story pretty well. What it needs, though, which is what I've picked out on as a sort of theme of the week, is examples. You got the guy from the Chamber of Commerce saying, look, there are some companies that have benefited because they export a lot and it's cheaper for people to buy. There are others who have to import before they export, or import all sorts of things which are therefore more expensive. So what we really need from this piece is examples of firms who are benefiting and those who are struggling. And then you get a perfectly rounded piece. But having said that, you've tried to explain the situation, and it is clear, but it needs those examples to make it much better.
New research has shown that the craft beer industry is booming, and local breweries here in Winchester are benefiting. Our culture correspondent Victoria Wang reports from one pub brewery in the city.
Good, nice, I understand what's going on and what I'm going to expect.
According to a report by UHY Hacker Young, the number of UK breweries has increased by 8% in the last year. The boosted demand for craft beer has made local breweries increasingly profitable. The Dancing Man Brewery in Southampton is experiencing this positive trend. They're increasing their capacity by 25% and taking on more staff.
It's a craft industry. We know people that brew in cupboards.
So you've got trouble with your sound here, and these pictures look a little bit blue because you compare them to the interview shot, so the balance on this isn't quite right.
And you don't need somewhere like this to brew. I just needed a bit of chemistry know-how, don't you? And be creative. And with the availability of all the new hops that are out in the market, I've been in the trade 20 odd years, and it's incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think, with that regard, with hops, I think people trying different beers and being aware that what the possibilities of beer are has created more and more interest, and it's grown and grown from there. It will stay there at some point, but at the moment it's growing and it will continue to grow.
Yeah.
The craft beer industry is growing steadily, but whether this will continue in the future is yet to be seen. This is Victoria Wang, Winchester News Online.
Victoria, you've got a great presence, as I've always said about you. I think in your voiceover you need to slow it down a little bit, and unfortunately in your piece to camera you ended up with one of my pet hates is, the future, we wait to see what happens in the future. Who knows what will happen in the future? Nobody ever knows that. You could more or less end every piece that way, so please don't use that. And I think it just needs more people, again, interviews with people, sitting around, having a pint. What do you like about a craft beer, a beer like this that's very locally sourced, all that sort of thing. It just adds its own flavour, to your package. And actually a chat with the people really to talk to, the people from CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale. And that's what it's missing, because these guys just love their beer. And you need to be able to talk to them and get a flavour for, sorry to use that phrase again, of what it is all about. But that would be quite important, would add so much to your story.
There are over 400,000 overseas students studying in the UK this year. But could these huge numbers be a thing of the past? Because this week, comments from the Home Secretary Amber Rudd have put a big question mark over the prospects for foreign students. Bethany Waring has more.
This link really needs to say how many overseas Winchester students have got. That's what it needs to say in that link.
The number of international students coming to study in the UK has been rising every year, but new sanctions could put a stop to that. The government has announced plans to crack down on the number of foreign students coming to study at UK universities.
You see, that is just a repeat of what is said in the link. So that's what we don't really want. So we need to add to it, having had that link.
These students came to Winchester from Norway to study.
That's not a student to me, that is a stool, and that is part of a kitchen. And this person is not described as a fat person. So we can show their faces. So all I would say is well done for getting these examples, because that's really good. But let's see the faces before we go to this sequence which you've made. Well done for doing that.
Quickly adjusting to British life, they found Amber Rudd's proposals ridiculous.
I think it's really stupid because obviously being abroad and to be able to study abroad is a really good opportunity, especially for me studying English language. It would be kind of stupid to do that in Norway.
I think it's unfair that people who can't afford to go here don't have that opportunity, because when they do study in England, their English get better.
Labour has also expressed their concern.
I think the issue is they're trying to create a level of elitism within education, and they're trying to skewer the numbers by targeting students and creating a culture of fear for international students.
But the Tories maintain that we need more control over inflating immigration.
I don't think we can ignore immigration because Brexit focused on that as a subject. People wanted to raise that. One of the reasons why people decided that they wanted to leave the EU was about who could come in and who couldn't.
Well done for getting her. Well done for getting the Labour guy as well. I think just on the Aston of the previous lady, the councillor, you do need to say that she's what we would usually say is her name, Conservative, or CON, brackets, and then you put the ward that she is a councillor for. That's probably the style guide way to do it. So Caroline Horville, or whatever her name was, Conservative, and then her ward.
Yet certain whether this policy will result in actual legislation, but the Winchester Student Union wants to assure students that Winchester is a welcoming place.
You've got absolutely.
Trouble is with your previous shot and then this one, I think you're in the same place. So all these people that were here have just disappeared. So make sure when you interview him, he's in a different place, or the previous shot isn't the one that's full of those guys walking down the road.
Afraid of. Britain is a very welcoming country and will continue to be so. Don't listen to some of the things in the negative side of the media. Britain is fantastic. Winchester is a fantastic university as well. I studied here for 3 years. I've made many international friends. Come and study in Winchester.
This weekend, Winchester saw the return of its Poetry Festival. This is only the second time the festival has been hosted since it began. Entertainment reporter Garen Wilcock has more.
In 2014, Winchester hosted its first ever poetry festival. 2 years later, it returned to the Winchester Discovery Centre. We asked Chair of the Board of Trustees Stephen Boyce how far he feels the festival has progressed in that time.
Again, Garen here, this is that's a radio link into somebody, and you don't need to do that. What I would say about this piece is that he is the piece, totally. There's far too much of him. There's less of a story. And it's more just a tale being told by him. What this needs is somebody reading some poetry. Again, interacting with people who are there, what they like about poetry. This poetry has to come off the page. All we see at the moment is just a series of books dotted around here and a long interview with a very nice but ultimately a little bit of a dull man.
After the first festival, quite a lot of people said to us, we enjoyed this so much, but there wasn't anything for children. Could you do something for children? And we very much wanted to respond to that, and so we gave that quite a lot of thought. And one of our co-directors, Sasha Dugdale, listed on the idea of poetry from around the world for younger children. And we had a very successful event yesterday with Shelley Bowden, who's an expert in this field, engaging with a group of 20 or so young children.
The trouble is, none of this we have seen. We've got no pictures of it. We're taking his word for it. So I wonder if there are people in the room just looking at him going, what's he going on about? I'm not sure it's that interesting.
Parents, of course, on learning about making responses to Russian poetry, so on and so forth. There is an audience for poetry, but there are lots of audiences for poetry, and I think you scratch anybody and they are, one way or another, susceptible to poetry.
See, that's a much better grab. All that stuff at the beginning, I'm not that interested in. This is a really nice part of the interview.
We have to cater for a very wide range of different interests and so on. One or two things that we deliberately go out and seek new audiences. So, for instance, we this year have worked with NHS Foundation Trust in Hampshire, and we have put poems in waiting rooms, for instance, to continue to surprise and delight people. I think that's the most important thing. I want people to come back here and not feel that it's predictable. I want them to come back here and say,
He's still going on.
wow, I learned something new, I discovered a new aspect of poetry, some new poet that I haven't
Anyone
heard
still
of.
interested?
I had a better understanding of what poetry means to me in my own life.
So there you have it.
So there you do have it, in a very long way, I have to say, Garen. Look, you've got a really good voice, and I think you will be able to use that really to your advantage. You've got good presence on camera. I think there's a nice style about you. We just need to create you into a person that can package and chop down and get to a real essence of a story. And when you do a piece to camera, just tuck this in, because that just looks very, very messy. Okay, so just tuck it in through your shirt. Just goes in, goes in up here. There you are. Put it in, and then you don't see any of that.
With great aspirations for the future and a view to inviting a younger and wider-ranging audience, we can expect great things from the festival's return in 2018. I'm Garen Wilcock, WINOL News.
The lives of people in Winchester are being transformed by new funding of over £1 million. That's the claim, but what's the reality? Natasha Hunt has been talking to people in WINOL to find out.
Yeah, so what is this? What is this money? Where is this money? I don't find out what this money's going towards for a long time.
The community here itself is great, and I love it here.
A local community centre in WINOL has been given £132,000 from Hampshire County Council and £4,500 from Winchester City Council for refurbishments.
But there were millions around, so I'm not quite. We haven't explained how this has gone from millions down to the 130-odd thousand.
The renovations took place over the summer, and the grand opening was on the 30th of September. The community centre is a place for everyone, from dance groups to...
I think we need, at that stage then, definitely to see the community centre and not a man on his computer, Natasha. I think you'd agree with that?
It's been a really whirlwind move.
The 1960s building has been transformed to offer better amenities to businesses as well as the local community.
Yeah, this needs to be
the centre
first.
has been remodelled and improved throughout. It is fully equipped with a new kitchen, energy-saving light bulbs, and has been redecorated.
It's been a tough road for the last 14 months, but with the support I've had, we've accomplished what we set out to do.
Lots of local parents depend on the community centre.
We came for the opening.
This is a really good interview. This is just the sort of person who brings this story to life and would bring all your other stories to life.
And I've looked forward to it opening so I can come in when the children are going to school, do a bit of coursework, nice cup of tea, friendly staff, and I love it here. It's a lovely community for everybody, and it's nice to have a cafe where you can all come and meet. My nan lives just round the corner. I don't see a lot of her, but I met her Friday, had a coffee with her, so that was nice.
The reaction from the public has been very positive.
I've not had one single derogatory comment. It's got the wow factor.
The centre is looking forward to hosting more events over the coming months. Natasha Hunt, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
Again, I think it just needed more people, Natasha. That's part of the issue. And maybe I think you can do a formal piece to camera outside any of your stories, but this requires you, I think, to be in and a part of it all. Having a cup of tea with people. Being a part of the community centre, not outside it.
Now, back to the subject of weight. Incredibly, students on average put on nearly a stone in their weight during their first year at university. With Freshers' Fortnight now behind us, our lifestyle reporter Victoria Quinn looks at what students are doing to stay in shape.
I think this is a perfect story, actually, to come off our obese story. Because, look, they're connected. We're thinking of our target audience. We've done a opening thing about people being large, and I think it's an automatic line that comes after our lead story. And the second story is not so huge that we've got to include it as number 2. So I think this goes up the bulletin. Think of the full shape of the bulletin and connect things together. And this works very well as a second story.
University, a time in most students' lives where they'll swap home-cooked meals with mum and dad for late-night partying and takeaways.
See, this is a great opening line. Great opening line, Victoria, because it takes away from the stats, the boring. You've just enlivened the piece straight away, and that's what we should try.
This is all typical and fun of student life, but with the average student gaining £11 on average during their time away from home, we here at WINOL wanted to look into what can be done to stop this happening. We spoke to...
It's a great start. Really, I'm really engaged by this story. But what you don't need...
from the University of Winchester's student gym. He said it's typical to see a surge in sign-ups at this time of the year, but
That's very much, again, a radio link that you probably could just go straight into him.
can be hard to stay motivated. With us, he shares why he thinks this is.
Certainly don't need that last bit. Don't need the with us. If you're going to take that other bit, okay, I'll let you have that. But don't need this last line.
It does fizzle out quite a lot because I think most people have got assignments and like essays to write stuff. Like, think about how far you've come. Like, you've gone to gym like maybe 3 or 4 months. Now, like if you stop going to gym now, you're going to lose all that.
And again, look, he's very central here. Remember, if rule of thirds, he either goes down here or he goes down here, and then you have this space for him to look into. So shift him from here to here, and then you'll get all this equipment in as well.
You've made all that progress you've made, so keep your head in the right track and keep moving forward.
The gym isn't for everyone, but with the large number of sports societies on offer, this is just one of the many other ways students are choosing to work out.
I would definitely recommend being part of a...
I think you need, when you're doing that previous shot, Victoria, you need a little bit of sound, natural sound from whatever that shot underneath your voiceover. So don't cut it as mute. It may have been there, but very, very quiet. Just needs a little bit more so I can hear the sound of people jumping up and down, if there's a bit of music or whatever it is.
Society. The main reasons as to why I'd suggest being part of a sport society would be because you make so many friends in a new environment.
Just think, oh, sorry, we've just gone back there. She comes back in a minute. But the framing again is...
Every week, so...
There, her framing's not quite right. Yes, she's down this as the third. But remember, there are thirds going this way as well. So there's actually too much headroom here. Okay, so her face probably needs to be up here.
So we can keep our fitness up and stay nice and fit.
And look at all these people that you could have talked to. You could go up to them and say, do you realise, if there are any first years there, do you realise in your time at university you're put on £11?
Come along to Freshers' Fair at the beginning of every semester. You can walk around the stalls and sign up to any sport or society that you would like, and then some have tryouts and some you can just join the team.
Don't have to just talk to the officials. Talk to the people it affects.
There's always plenty going on at uni, so make sure you get involved. Victoria Quinn, Winchester News Online.
And again, Victoria, there's a lot of headroom here. You're a bit cut off. So it's just framing of that. I'm not sure if you did it with someone or you just set it up and did it yourself. But otherwise, some really good aspects about this. Your voice, the way you look on camera, your presence, your writing. So there's some really good start. We just need to, again, get more atmosphere, more colour into your packages.
Finally, with the countdown to Christmas already underway, books are in big demand as presents, and the marketing push is in full swing. Our reporter Jess Staley visited a local bookshop to find out about an event known in publishing as Super Thursday.
Super Thursday is the day on which more books are published than any other day of the year, and companies push the books that they think will be big this festive season.
I don't have a problem with this story as such, apart from the fact it's just a massive puff for the book industry, and I need to have more of an edge to a story. There needs to be a hook rather than this just being an advertising piece.
In recent years, publishers have been spreading their release dates over 2 or 3 days in order to avoid titles being lost in the noise. And in 2016, the dates to look out for are the 6th of October and the 20th.
That's just right. Here's my press release. Here are the days that we're going to get some offer from the book people, and what a great plug for P&G Wells, booksellers and stationers.
Well, Super Thursday is a moment of great advertising and publicity, and so everybody becomes much more aware of the new titles for their Christmas purchasing, but they still buy when they want to.
Do you think Super Thursday is good for books, or do you worry that titles are lost in the surge?
The main thing is that people think about books, and what it does is it galvanises the public to...
It's a really good question, though. I like that, and that you're trying to get an edge to this story.
...to a bookshop and think that maybe all of their problems can be answered by books. So that's why we think it works.
How are you faring compared to sort of national chains like Waterstones and WH Smith?
Well, we are growing and we do make a small profit and they don't. So if that should continue, then we'll see them off. But what really happens is that they sell different kinds of books to customers who are rushing up and down the high street and haven't got time to browse. So we survive, they survive, but in fact we're facing different customers and selling them different books.
So with the next burst of books soon to be released, make sure you get down to your local bookshop and take a look. Jessica Staley, Winchester News Online.
Jessica, whoever shot this, I think you're a bit bleached as well. I mean, your face is bleached out. So again, the balance on this, your colour balance, your white balance, is not quite right. And as I say, as far as the story goes, I just think it's a bit of a puff. Again, we haven't spoken to anybody apart from the book owner. So we've gone for the person in authority rather than the people that that are being affected by this story.
That's all here from us today. Be sure to check out WINOL.co.uk for more.
Do say goodbye. Bye is always very nice. See you next time. Something like that, Jennifer, just to soften it at the end. But otherwise, good job. And as I say, well done, everyone. But we've got to look at filling out our packages to make sure we've got the people that really matter in them. That would be my lesson from this week.